Hi everyone, welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. It is such a pleasure to be here with all of you today. Welcome. We have had quite a crazy couple of weeks, but it is so good to be back here with you all. And I hope that this finds you all very, very well and doing well. We were just away over the May long weekend here in Canada, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about that later in the show. First of all, I am located just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia here in Canada. It is like 14, 16 degrees Celsius out today. It's overcast, there's a little bit of a breeze. It's not super warm. And then I look in the chat and Alberto was saying that in Massachusetts, they could hit 97 Fahrenheit, which is very hot, and that they're in the middle of a heat wave. So go figure. Welcome everybody. It is so good to see everyone. We've got Lily here and Christine and Eve and Eliane and who else? Maria, Ellen, Kath, Rebecca. It's so good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. I am quite tired. As you can tell, my voice is, well, actually you might not be able to tell. My voice is not 100%. There was a lot of yelling and screaming from the sidelines this weekend. Mike has like no voice. The kids just had a great weekend. Nora unfortunately had to watch from the sidelines. So we were up in Kelowna, which is about 3.5 hours from here via mountain highways. For soccer tournaments for both kids. So both kids were in the tournament. Obviously Nora couldn't play because of her arm. Excuse me, sorry, which was really too bad. And but we had a good weekend and she had a lot of fun, and her coach kept telling her that she was the assistant coach for the weekend, which was really special. I am wearing my Pressed Flowers by Amy Christoffers today. I wear this cardigan quite often. It's one of my favorites. The color work in it is all hand spun. It was my Merino Yak 50/50 that I did from West Coast Color quite a number of years ago now. And then the kind of gray, like tawny browny gray, is a Romney CVM mohair blend that was spun at a small mill here in Canada and is originally Disdero Ranch in Tappan, British Columbia. It's originally her wool. And like I said, I wear this quite a lot. All right. Before we begin, if you're new here and you're looking for, and you're sort of not sure about where to find anything, there is a Start Here guide down below in the down bar. Click that. There's a couple of links down there as well that will help you navigate for the month. There's the Woolen Spinning newsletter that's called Ketchup and Pickles. Ketchup is in catch up and pickles as in we're having fun. Our monthly post that's also down below for May. I did include a too long didn't read, so TL:DR, at the top of the monthly post. Let me know if you guys like that, and it just gives you sort of an idea of what's going on in the month, and then you can scroll down later in the month when you have time to get all of the links. There is one small timing note this week that I wanted to mention. It's also in Ketchup and Pickles in the monthly housekeeping post, but Color Mania, we are welcoming Dion back to Woolen Spinning. She's feeling a lot better and she's really wanting to jump back in with her Zoom group that she had started back in the fall. They will return in June. The details are posted on the Slack channel, and I also threw them onto the Patreon message board, the group chat, where you can post and ask general questions. If you want something specifically from me, please reach out to me directly. But that group chat is sort of a posting board for everybody to stay up to date with everything. So it is posted there as well. Join by mid-June and look for the Staplers and the Color Maniacs Zoom group tier on Patreon. The collection of the previous meetings are available on Patreon. Let me just grab you the link. It is here for the color group, for those who are part of that group. It is here. And also, Slack might populate a Maker Morning meeting for tomorrow morning for Wednesday, May 20th. I've had to move it to Thursday, so there will be a Patreon post later tomorrow with the links for Maker Morning for Thursday. But for those of you who are on Slack, Google calendar is a bit funny sometimes with Slack, and it doesn't update as quickly as I would like it to sometimes. So sometimes there's Zoom links that are posted that aren't actually the right ones. So it is for Thursday morning. So, and I think that that is it. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Please join me in welcoming Dion back to hosting the color group. She has some really fun things organized for you guys. She's going to be looking at, it's going to be an hour and a half long instead of just an hour. And she really wants that time to be spent doing some demos, spent in really deep discussion, really answering your guys' questions, having sort of an intent for each month. So I'm very excited to see what she's going to do with all of that. So as I mentioned, me and my family spent the last weekend, this past long weekend, away in Kelowna. It's about 3.5 hours northeast of Vancouver. You sort of drive up and then you kind of loop around into Kelowna. The kids both had quite competitive tournaments. James's team was not expected to do very well because they were playing really top ranked teams throughout the province, and they ended up winning 3 of their 4 games, which was incredible. So they didn't make it to the final, but they made it to the semifinal, which was, their coach was just amazed. So that was really fun. So I hope you enjoy this. It's just a collection of sort of some video and photos and whatnot from the weekend, and then we'll get into the actual show.
he leaves, we win.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's kind of fun to show you snippets of our life and what goes on and what happens and, you know, the things that kind of go on behind the scenes. Last year when I sent out our Christmas cards, I didn't send out like a Christmas card or a happy holidays card. We sort of sent out like a New Year's card, and it just said on it, there was a lot of soccer. That's all it said. And then it had some photos of the kids playing, and a couple of like family photos. It's, you know, it's something that we share as a family, and it's something that we do as a family. So it's neat that we all have something in common that we can chat about. The linesman, we had him a couple of times. The gentleman that you saw that was in the bright yellow that was walking right there, we had him a couple of times, and he just thought we were all hilarious and would laugh when we would say stuff, and it was just really cute. So yeah, it was neat. So that was our weekend. I did get some knitting done, and I did start some new things because we were driving for so long and in the truck for so long. So why don't we start off with some prep that I've been doing to get ready. I've been sorting out and making sure that all of my stuff for Tour de Fleece and Tour de Fleece Femme is ready. So every show I've been like strategically putting in a fiber prep to sort of share with you guys what I'm doing. Last show was the Romney from Twin Oaks Farm in Ontario that I finished all of my blending and my bats and making all the sari silk blend and everything. We talked about that last show. This week I've been working on a bat that was gifted to me from Melissa years ago that I never got to, and I actually felt really badly because I meant to spin it right away and then it just kind of got buried under everything. So when I was packing for us coming and living with my mom for the last 8 months, it was supposed to be 6, I thought I'll bring it with me and I will prep it and have it ready for Tour de Fleece. So we'll talk about that, and next show I'll have something else prepped in so that I'll be, you know, that much closer to being ready for Tour de Fleece. So we've got 2 shows left between now and Tour de Fleece after this show. So we've got 2 in June, and then we'll be starting Tour de Fleece. So I'm hoping to have 4 things prepped and ready to go for Tour de Fleece and Tour de Fleece Femme. Yeah, so we'll start off with that, and then I've got some spinning to share with you that's very minimal, but it's all part of this ongoing conversation around daily practice, and then I've got a bunch of knitting to share with you. So let's jump right in. So Eliane was saying that all of their children were soccer players as well, and that it's very important here in Trondheim, where she lives in Norway. Very cool. I know we're not the only ones. I know there are a lot of other people out there that share this obsession with football, also known as soccer. All right, let's start off with fiber prep. So I have it all here, like in a bag, but I thought that it might actually be easier if I just shared photos with you guys to start with. So this was a bat that my friend Melissa of MellyKnits gifted me years ago, and it was a really cool blend. It was a burn pile, because I had said to her when I was chatting with her, one of the very first times that I met her, I'd never really heard the term burn pile before. I'd really only heard, like, you know, compost, you know, farmers composting fleece, getting rid of fleece, burning it, etc., etc. So I loved the idea of her calling it like burn pile wool. So this was, quote, Big Mama. It was a local mystery rescue. So she doesn't really know what it was. Some sort of probably Fraser Valley special. And the reason why we call them Fraser Valley specials is because I live in an area of British Columbia that's literally called the Fraser Valley. And it's a valley where the Fraser River runs through. And there's kind of the upper Fraser Valley and the lower Fraser Valley. I live in the lower area that's more at sea level. And there's a lot of sheep here, and they tend to be crosses of like CVM, Dorset, Cheviot, Suffolk, Romney. Those are kind of the common ones that you'll run across. And so usually a Fraser Valley special is kind of any combination of all of those things. And then she blended it with 15% Surrey alpaca, which was from Rosebud River in Alberta, and 20 grams just in this one little bat of Kashgora, which was really quite lush. So this is what the bat looked like before I started to strip it down. And then as I opened it up, there was two piles, because often what Melissa does is she'll do one bat that's like a certain weight, and then she'll lay another one on top, and then she rolls them. It makes the prep a lot easier in terms of like ripping things apart, dividing things down for bobbins and spindles, and making sure that everything is kind of, you know, easy to organize, if you will. I really like it. So I took the first layer, if you will, and I broke it all down into these little nests of fiber. So I've got about half a dozen. I think I actually have more than that. I think I have about a dozen of these little nests of fiber ready to start spinning for what I would consider like the first bobbin for Tour de Fleece. And then what I'll do is when I get some time this week, I'll do the other half. So I did the one part of it last week and got it all ready to go, and then I'll do the other half, put it in a separate bag so that the two are ready to go, two different bobbins, and I'll make a 2-ply. So just really, really beautiful prep, very smooth. I did pre-draft all of them. I just went through and pre-drafted them, and you can see just how light and airy it is. It's just you know, has a lightness to it and an airiness to it. And I hope that I won't have problems while I'm spinning it with the alpaca, because sometimes when I'm spinning alpaca, I can start to have a bit of a reaction to it. I get really congested and coughy, and you know, it's an allergy. But hopefully it's clean enough and there isn't any dander left that I'll be okay. So fingers crossed. So that was my fiber prep that I did this week. I'm trying to do one thing a week, like I said. And so I got that finished for Tour de Fleece. That's the first of the two bats stripped down. I'll do the other one this week, and then I'll be off to the races for the next thing. I think for June, the 2 shows in June, I think the prep that I'll do is prepping the, it's starting to organize and prep the picking for the Lincoln Suffolk cross that Dion that I bought from Dion that I've been slowly working on. That'll be next show. We'll talk about that next show. So I think so, Eve. She said maybe wear a mask. That's exactly what I think. I think I'll do that if I start to have a reaction. If not, I'll be fine. But wearing a mask just seems to be, it just keeps the particles out of your nose. It keeps you from having a reaction. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but I'll just pull one on when I'm actually doing the spinning, and hopefully it won't be a problem. I've never had a problem with the alpaca in Melissa's bats, and I think it's because it's so clean and there's no dander left over. So fingers crossed. Okay, what do we need to talk about next? So I have been doing this daily practice stuff. So why don't we talk about that next? Because it's been, it's been a little bit challenging to keep up with, and I wanted to chat about that for a little while or for a few minutes and get your guys' take on how you maintain your daily practice. So let's do that next. So I thought I would share with you some pretty photos while we're chatting. I did pull another little another little skein off of my Charkha this past week. So this is the third one, I think. So there's another one here. So this one was one that I pulled off for last show. And this one is just recent from this past week. It's about the same. I don't know how many yards this one is. It's a little bit smaller than the other one because I was demoing for Sweet Georgia, and we were recording and getting the cotton spinning course finished off. And so because of that, I wound the skein with whatever I had left on the spindle of the Charkha. So this little skein is a little bit smaller than my other skein. But what I've been doing, and I've shared this with you, I've shared this book with you guys before, but this is my bullet journal. And actually, we'll just pause with the photos for just a second. We'll go to the big camera for just a minute. I hope it's not too dark. It is really dark outside today. So I hope that it's not too dark. But this is my bullet journal. Who is Joe is a coffee roaster right across the street from Sweet Georgia, the Sweet Georgia Studios. They have the best coffee. They source it from, oh shoot, it's not Columbia. Oh, I can't remember. Anyways, it's delicious. It's amazing. It'll come to me later in the show and I'll be like, that's the country. Anyways, what I've been doing is, this is sort of a sample week in my bullet journal. Rebecca has seen this thing in real life, and she kind of laughed at me. Not like laughed at me, like teasing at me, but kind of laughed at me when I was organizing my week, because she was looking at me doing it and I was putting in all my stickers and writing all my stuff down. And for a while there, I felt like I was doing, I was double recording things, I guess is the best way to describe it. So in Google Calendar and keeping a digital calendar for the family that Mike and I both can see, and then also writing it down in my book. But I just find for the busyness and what's going on in our life and the things that are happening and just all the kind of stuff that comes up in the moment, there's two advantages for myself that I found sticking with paper and pen. One is it means I'm not constantly checking my phone, because it would mean that I would be checking my phone literally every 5 minutes, which so many of us already do anyways. And I'm always on my phone anyways. But it's one less thing that I have to check my phone all the time. And then the other thing that I found really, really super helpful, and this is what I was going to show you guys today, is down here in the corner, right down here by the flamingo, right here, there's a little tick list thing there. And basically it says Charkha, and then it has a little box, M, and then there's another box for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And what I've been trying to do is for every day that I get my daily practice for my Charkha done, I get a tick box, and then at the end of the week I can kind of look and see how many days I actually was able to do it. And it wasn't Costa Rica, Nicole, really good guess. I feel like it's Nicaragua, but I might be wrong. So more in like Central America rather than South America, but I'm pretty sure it's Nicaragua. And so like this past week, we were driving on Friday, and I actually thought that once we got to the hotel room that I probably would get some Charkha spinning in, but then Nora dragged me off to the gym, as you saw in the slideshow, and really wanted to go and do stuff. She's really struggling with her arm, with what she can do, because she's such an active kid. And I noticed somebody in chat had asked how her arm is doing, and thank you so much for asking. And basically, like, I think she's just feeling a bit like pent up. So we've been going for walks, and she's been trying to go to practice and just like hang out and juggle and do the odd thing. But really, she's not able to get that release of like, you know, intense activity that she's really used to and that she really craves and she really loves. And I think that just that, so she, you know, as soon as she saw that there was a gym and there were some bikes, like immediately she wants to go and do that. So she kind of makes me laugh. So I ended up not getting my Charkha practice done. But then on the flip side, I got that time with Nora. So she didn't hang out the whole time, and she kind of meandered off after about half an hour, 40 minutes. But then I got some quiet time and I got to read my book, which I'm really enjoying. So it's a balance. And then on Saturday, we had some downtime in the afternoon where we were just hanging out at the hotel, and James really needed to rest his body because it was, you know, it's very physical, and the games are intense, and, you know, we were out in the sun and in the heat. So then I did get some spinning done, and so it's neat to be able to look back at the end of the week and sort of see where I was able to carve out time and where I wasn't able to carve out time. And I have noticed that there's often a day or two a week where it's not even so much that I don't want to, it's that I just don't make it a priority. And it's almost sort of like you get to like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And for me anyways, I start to kind of just shut down because the days are really busy and I just don't want to. And I've come to the conclusion through all of this that sometimes that's okay. You know, and sometimes you have to do the thing because the feeling good and the wanting to do it and the motivation to do it comes after the fact, and you have to lead by action. Feelings follow action, I think, is a really good philosophy just in general in life. Do the thing and the feelings will follow. The good feelings around like motivation, consistency, feeling good about yourself, all that follows afterward. If we spent all of our time waiting for those feelings to come, we wouldn't get anything done. So, but it's been also really motivating to look back and see the weeks where I've actually hit almost every day. Like the week prior to that, I was able to get onto my Charkha 6 out of the 7 days, which to look back and see that is like, wow, that's awesome. I'm not sure what was different about that week compared to this past week. I think part of it was being away, but I did take the Charkha with me and it fit in my backpack beautifully and it was so easy. And then when I was looking back at some of the weeks previous where I was actually prepping for the recording at the Sweet Georgia studio, which was I recorded with them a couple of weeks ago now, I was looking at some of my weekly practices and it was sort of like, 3-4 days a week. It wasn't a ton. And I thought that when I looked back that it would be more than that. Like in my mind, I had remembered more. So it's neat to keep track of and to sort of not to put any pressure on ourselves, but to sort of remind ourselves that sometimes it's worth it to just do the thing. And then those feelings of motivation, those feelings of stick-to-itness, consistency, all that stuff sort of falls into place after the fact. And it's also meant that this was only 50 grams of cotton. One of the things that's been very humbling is how much spinning 50 grams of cotton really is. It is a huge amount of spinning. And if I start my practice with the intention, like if I take the cotton sliver, because I've just been spinning it off the sliver. I haven't been doing any prep or making any poonies or anything. But if I take the sliver and I sort of break off like this much, this will fill the majority, at least 70-80% of the spindle as I'm spinning. And that's a lot of spinning. Like I don't know exactly what the yardage is just yet because I haven't gotten some of the numbers just yet, but I will. And it's really made me realize that like this little bit of cotton goes a long way and it's actually a lot of spinning. So sometimes I will look at the clock and say to myself, 15 minutes, that's it. If it turns into more, great, but 15 minutes, that's all you need to do. And generally this is not finished. And sometimes I'll decide to finish it and keep spinning. And then other times I'll be like, you know what? I'm good. I'm done for today. But just taking those few moments throughout my week, even if it only happens 3 or 4 times, has been really important. And it's been It's something that I really look forward to because it's those times where I'm not having to take in input from outside and from other things and from things happening around me. I can kind of just tune it out and focus on my practice and focus on the charkha itself, focus on the yarn, focus on what I'm doing, being consistent with the draft, all that kind of stuff. You guys have some thoughts in chat. Let's go back and just catch up a little bit. Rebecca said, I'm jealous of anyone who has an awesome journaling practice. Thank you. She said the real problem is I can barely keep track of my phone, so keeping track of a book has not gone super well in the past. It's funny you would say that, Rebecca. I have heard that from a lot, like from a number of people. At home, when we're in our house, my bullet journal sits at my place at the table, which Rebecca has seen because she stayed with us quite a few times. But here, there really isn't a place for me to keep it at my spot at the table. So I've been keeping it in here on the desk. And it's interesting because I've actually found in some ways I've had to be more intentional about using it. And so it's actually been I've actually been using it even more. But I think it's partially because we're not in our own environment and I'm having to do overtime in terms of keeping track of everything because there's so much more driving and things are just a bit more disjointed. And you know how when you're driving a lot, there's it means that as a result of a lot of driving, there's a lot of transition time. And I find that having things organized and just kind of knowing what to expect-ish is really, really helpful. So it's partially this winter, there's cotton flying around me. It's been like a lifeline, to be honest. Colleen says my phone seems to be self-regulating me lately as it stays home when I go out. That's a great idea. She still has an Apple Watch. Yes. And you know, it's funny with the watch, we've really noticed a difference between the kids because Nora has an Apple Watch because she walks back and forth to school on her own. And James has a phone. And Nora's never been quite as screen oriented as James has been. We've had to regulate it a lot more with James, but I do find with the watch, Nora's just not drawn to it as much. It doesn't seem to draw in her attention to the same extent that the phones do, which is a really interesting thing. So I bet, you know, having it on your watch like that, Colleen, I do wonder if maybe you also aren't thinking about it quite as lot. You're just getting on with your life. Yeah. I have a notebook Christine says that I made notes in, but I wouldn't call it a bullet journal. The front is spinning and the back is making from yarn. Oh, that's fantastic. Katrina had something like that years ago. She would have like, you know, sort of like very similar to what I do for my weaving notebook. So I have this book and it's all got all of my weaving projects for the last few years. I don't start a new one every year. I just keep this one going. And when it's full, I'll start a new book at that point. And I made sure that it was spiral bound rather than my bullet journal is more of, it's woven. And you can see that, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've broken it. The spine is all broken here, which is funny because I've never broken one before. This was the first year. And I intentionally kept less in it so that I wouldn't break the spine because I felt like I was hanging on to more because we're here and I can't put things away. But my weaving book here, it's pretty full and I keep an elastic band around it. But it has all of my samples and all of my swatches. I've shared this before with you guys. And I staple things in to keep things organized. I don't know what I would do without this book. And I know people have all sorts of ideas to keep their stuff organized and to keep themselves, for those who like to document. Not everybody likes to document. It's not for everyone. But that's worked really, really well for me for my weaving. Yes, Cotton Lung Eve. Oh my goodness, yes. I downloaded a free Pilates app, but need to sort out the routine to do it each day. I really find the checklist really helps. Getting your streak started, so you can do it on a wall calendar. You can do it in person in your book. Doing it on Google, you know, on your calendar app on your phone. Starting a streak. Get a streak going. And then check in with yourself at the end of the week. How did you do? It really does make a huge, huge difference. Just to stay accountable. I've also found too that life gets in the way of all of this stuff. It's just a fact. We all have been there. With my Charkha practice in particular, I do find that sometimes I just can't fit it in. I can't get it done. And I have to be really super kind to myself and recognize that like not getting, 40 or 50 yards of yarn spun today is not indicative of my integrity as a person, and that sometimes it just doesn't happen. It's just a fact. Yeah, a lot of people do that, Eve. She said she uses her phone for audiobooks and music when she's out. I do that, and actually listening in the car because of all the driving, I've gotten through a lot of really good audiobooks this year, which has been really positive. And Nora and I have been listening to books on the way to and from school. So we've made our way through The Secret Garden. We've done Little Women this year, and now we're on to The Girl Who Drank the Moon, and all three of those books are like 13, 15, 18 hours of listening. So it's been really cool to work our way through those books, and highly recommend for girls aged 11 to 14-ish. Those three books have been perfect. All right, let's move on to knitting, because otherwise we'll sit here all day, and I have a couple of things to share with you. So I thought I would share my progress on my Moonset tee first. I'll show you the photos actually while I'm getting it out. They were, this was where we were at last show. So I had divided for, I'd knit the yoke and I had divided for the body, and I was sort of on my way with the body. And I think I mentioned to you guys that I was doing the body and knitting it while I was sitting on the bike doing all of my zone 2 training. So this was where we were last show. And then somehow, some way, I was able to get quite a lot of knitting done on the body this past week. And what I've been doing to track my progress is I've actually been using my row markers, my removable pins down the side here, and counting like each inch. So each round is 9 rows to get an inch. So I've been adding every 9 rows I've been putting in a row marker, and it just makes you feel like you're making progress. So I still have about 4 inches to go, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. But the nice thing with this sweater, which is kind of cool, is the bind off at the bottom. There's no ribbing, it just finishes, and it's a I-cord bind off at the bottom. So once I finish these final 4 inches, I'm gonna have to take my sweater off. I am boiling. It is so warm in here. Sorry you guys, it's just been like, we're getting to that time of year where wearing a sweater is just a bit too much. Ooh, thank you for the recommendation, Christine. She said my daughter really enjoyed the Skullduggery Pleasant books. He's a skeleton detective plus, oh yeah, Inkheart. Those were amazing. And we've tried Anne of Green Gables. I read them all when I was young. She just can't get into them. I wonder if it's just like, I don't know what it is with Anne of Green Gables, because I loved them. And I loved Road to Avonlea. They were amazing. But yes, the Inkheart books, we've read the first 2 and they've seen the first movie. But yeah, great, really, really good recommendations, Christine. Thank you. So this is where we're at now with the sweater. So we're almost to the point where I'm going to finish off with that I-cord bind off, and it'll be completely finished. What I love about this, for those who didn't catch last show, this is Jacob from Cold Valley Farms in Wisconsin, and I bought this from Koniagas Textiles in, I think it was it Knit City or Fibers West? I think it was Fibers West about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. It was the last Fibers West, not this, just this past one. It's always in March, and I think it was March of 2025, but I could be wrong about that. Anyways, I took Jacob always has multiple colors in their fleeces. It's usually like creamy white, gray, and browns, and any kind of variation on that. And I carded it all together. I talked about it a lot on the podcast when I was working through it this time last year. And this is how it's coming out. So this is the front, and then this is the back. And I love how it's just very, very gently textured. There's no color pooling, everything blended really quite well. And then you get these sort of little hits here and here and here that almost kind of look like a tweed almost, because of the dark brown popping through in certain sections and certain areas. And there's no striping between the different skeins because of how homogeneous the wool was overall. So yeah, really, really happy with how this is coming out. I've just got a little bit further to go. And actually what I might do is take a page out of Rebecca's book, and before I actually cast this off, I might actually wash and block it and try it on, and then decide if I'm going to add a bit more length or not, because I already am going to add length because the sample in the pattern is a bit short for my torso, which is totally fine. I have lots of yarn, but I think I might, rather than go ahead and bind it off and everything, I think I might wash and block it and just sort of take a pause. We should be back in our house by then, and I can you know, do the thing, finish it how I would finish it if it was completely finished, and then try it on and decide if I'm going to add a bit more length. So I've got two skeins, I've got full 2 skeins left. So I've got lots and lots and lots of yardage to play around with to make it a bit longer. And I think the pattern calls for, like, I think you're supposed to bind off at like 11 inches. And I think my thought was to lengthen it to about 14 because my torso is quite long. And then I can tuck it in if I want to and wear it with high-waisted jeans and have it a little bit looser, not too tight. I knit it with, I knit one size up to give it, to have some ease in this. And my plan is to be able to wear it in sort of these shoulder season days where it's too warm for a cardigan, but too cool for just a t-shirt, if that makes sense. Yeah, Linda says the details are so beautiful. Thank you, Linda. And Rebecca said, I used to think they called it shoulder season because you were always taking sweaters on and off your shoulders. Bless you, Rebecca. I thought the same when I was a teenager. Eliane says how lively gray can be. Yes, I totally agree. It just worked out so well. And then Renata made a top in gorgeous mottled gray like that. Yes, it was that, I think it was the vest that she did for her husband. It was so effective with the all over garter stitch. And she was telling us in queries that those types of vests are very common in areas like Germany and Austria. And they're part of their heritage, I guess you could say, or their culture, and a lot of men and women wear them, and it made me want to make one because I just, the look of it just perfect vest for the shoulder season. All right, so I did start some new stuff, so I wanted to share with you. I saw my friend Beatrice last week, and she was wearing this awesome sweater that she had just finished. It's called the Fidalgo. It's by Michelle, I think it's Frazetta. And I had ripped out quite a while ago my combo spin that was the overall cabled fisherman's cardigan, the vintage cardigan. I fully intend on knitting it again. It just, I knew that I was going to run out of yarn, and I knew that I wasn't going to have enough. And when I saw Beatrice's I just thought, oh yeah, like this would just be awesome in that yarn, and I have more than enough yardage. So this is the photo from Ravelry that's posted by the designer. And then where is my, so what I did before we left on Friday, where is my, it's not here. Oh, okay, hang on. Pause. The Pelica vest. Thank you, Christine. Yes. And it's so lovely, that thing, the Pelica vest. I just love it. Okay, I know I have my swatch here somewhere. Is it in here? Did I put it in here? You guys, I don't know what is happening. Where is it? Oh, here it is. I knew I had it somewhere. Anyways, onward. So what I did last week before we left on Thursday, I took a few minutes and I actually did another swatch out of this yarn. So this is the second swatch that I've done with this yarn. The other one was plain stockinette and a bunch of different needle sizes, which you guys might remember. This is probably why I didn't get some of my daily practice with my Charkha done. Last week, because I was swatching. I was swatching all the things. We'll talk about another swatch that I was working on last week, two other ones in just a moment. And I know you guys know this, but I am a big swatcher. I like swatching. I think it's really important. With our hand spun yarns, there's just no other way to get a lot of information from them if we don't swatch. And I've done swatches with this yarn before, and I can always rip out the swatch, wash and block the yarn, and use it in the project if I run out of yarn. So that was sort of my thought process with this. So this is the stitch pattern for this cardigan. It's a rib, a broken rib. And when I saw Beatrice's, I just loved the overall patterning, and it's out of a tweed. And I just thought that, you know, this was a tweed. It's been really hard to find a pattern. I knew that my stitch gauge wouldn't be quite right with the pattern, but it actually ended up not being that far off. So what I ended up doing was wash this, block this. It was dry by us leaving on Friday morning. So I grabbed it, threw it into my bag. One of my skeins was still wound from the previous project, and I actually spent some time casting on the sweater. So this is the back neck. And I think what I'll do is knit a little bit further into it. I've started some of the increases here. That's what these stitch markers are for. And it's quite dark in here. I'm sorry, you guys, even though I have the lights turned way up, it's just really, really dark just in general today. But I think that what I'll do is I will wash and block this as well. So once we get back into our house, I'll do a few more inches, wash it and block it, and just make sure that I like the fabric, because I've gone up a needle size compared to what I was knitting the the vintage cardigan out of. So it's giving me a looser fabric, and it's not unpleasant by any stretch. It's actually really nice. And it's a little bit more lightweight too. It's not quite as dense, but it is looser and it's not quite as dense. And you know, I just want to make sure that it's going to give me the drape that I want while also having the structure that I want and not being too open and too loose. So that's the beginning of the Fidalgo cardigan. I really, really like the texture. At first I was looking at it going, I'm not sure that this is going to work. But then the more that I look at it and the more that I worked on it, I worked on this on the way to Kelowna on Friday. And then I didn't get a chance to work on it for the rest of the weekend. But as I was working on it, I was like, oh, I really like this. So hopefully more progress on that next show. There's just nothing like working with your hand spun and figuring it out as you go, and that feeling that you get when you find a yarn and a pattern where it finally everything matches up and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool. So yeah. Oh, thank you, Eliane. She says your swatches are always so neat. Well, talking about swatches, so I started this before and I ended up ripping it out because I made a huge mistake. Hang on, it's this the Oolong tee by Amee Sher. I had started this after Knit City in Calgary and out of some hand spun, and I completely missed the plot, and I only did one lace panel up the front, and so by the time I realized, I was already several inches in and just frustrated, and so I ended up ripping it out and just walking away. But then my friend Megan in Bramble Ridge, she's been clearing out this yarn that's pictured here. It's a 70-30 wool linen blend, and it's just the most loveliest color. It's called Squall, and I just love this sort of greeny seafoam kind of a color. So what I did last week when I got the yarn from Megan, I did a big swatch. So half of this is on 3mm needles and half of this is on 3.25mm needles, which doesn't sound like a lot of a difference, but with a 4-ply like this, it would be like the equivalent of swatching a 4mm versus a 4.5mm. So US size 5 versus a 6. Or maybe it's a 6 and a 7, I can never remember. This was a US let me just double check. It was a US 3 and a US 2.5. And you know, it's interesting. You can feel a difference. Like this part of the fabric is denser. It is a little bit more structured while still being drapey and open, but this is very drapey and open. It's incredible, like what a difference the two needle sizes make. And sure enough, it showed in my stitch gauge, because the 3mm needle, the US size 2.5, was 27 stitches over 4 inches. The 3.25mm or US size 3 was 25 stitches. That's 2 stitches. That's actually quite a lot when you're dealing with a relatively fine gauge. So I took that into consideration, and I had already done the ribbing, or like started to cast on. I didn't actually start like the knitting part of it, but I had started the ribbing before we left on Friday for Kelowna. I was working on this last week. It's very, very textured because of the, you can't really see it in the camera, but it's very textured from the flax. It's definitely toe flax that's used in these blends, so the waist, and it just gives you a lot of texture, and it sort of sticks out and sort of works its way free. Some of it's getting knit into the fabric, and some of it I think is just going to be textured. I really like it. You start off with a twisted rib at the bottom, and I did that on 2.75mm needles, and then the sweater itself is being knit on 3.25mm needles. That's ultimately what gave me gauge and was the fabric that I liked the best. And then the lace is so intuitive and it's so pretty. So once that's blocked out, and I remembered to do 2 panels this time. We laugh, but it's, you know, it's the make or break when you get up to the neck. So that's it there. It's hard to see with the shadows and everything, but it's just really, really, really pretty. So I'm through 2 lace repeats so far, and I'm just gonna keep going and work on it when I can. And this had been a sample at one of the booths in Knit City, Calgary. And I had wanted to, oh, I'm sorry, I keep saying Eliane, but it's Dagmar. I'm sorry, Dagmar. I really, really liked the sample that she was wearing in the booth, and I can't remember which yarn company it was now, but it just looked awesome on her, and her and I had the same coloring, and she had done it in sort of more of like a vert green, and but I really like sort of a softer tealy, seafoamy kind of bluey green on me, and I've been kind of looking for the yarn ever since, because I should have bought the yarn at woulda, coulda, shoulda. I should have bought the yarn at Knit City, and I was waffling, and as soon as the marketplace closed, I remember saying to Rebecca that I regretted it. Anyways, so finally working on this now, and I did go up a size because the woman that was wearing the one that I really liked, she had said to me that she went up a size to get some ease. And it meant she could wear kind of a little bralette underneath and didn't have to layer a bunch of stuff underneath, because the whole idea is to have a summer top. So that's what I've been doing. So I will report back, obviously, and let you guys know how that goes. And yeah, I've got 2 skeins, more than enough for the tank top, and got that going while we were away. I worked on it again when we were in the hotel room and also on the drive. I sort of kept switching between projects. It's very unusual for me to have this many knitting projects going all at once. This is very odd for me, but I think it's partially kind of just wanting some new stuff and wanting some portable stuff, and just feeling excited about some of the things that I've been wanting to make for a while and just haven't gotten to. So the last swatch that I was working on last week, and actually I started this the week before, but it took quite a bit of time, was for the Iris pullover. So I have wanted to make this. This is by Trin Annalie. I have wanted to make this since she put out a test call for test knitting. The call for test knitting, and I just loved it so much. And it's all over color work, sleeves as well. You start at the back neck and work short rows for the back, and then you pick up and work the fronts and the backs together, and then you steek the arms and add the sleeves later. And I started fix something. Sorry about that, you guys. I started swatching for this. It took me a bit to do this, but this is my initial swatch. So I bought this yarn when I was in Victoria at Christmas time with Nora for a soccer tournament. And let me just pull it out here. So what I ended up doing, I don't often print off patterns, but I did print off this pattern because let me tell you, there are a lot of pages. So this is the pattern here. And then because I didn't use the yarn, or I'm not going to use the yarn that's called for in the pattern itself, I basically pulled up on the pattern. I pulled up the color card and I looked at the pattern at the same time as looking at the color card for the yarn that's called for in the pattern. And thankfully the Beehive in Victoria, which is a big local yarn shop, had a fingering weight yarn very similar to Knit Picks palette, for those who are familiar with that yarn, and very similar to the yarn that's called for in the pattern. So this is a 100% wool. It's made in England. I'm gonna probably not say this right, but it's Tynd Ould. This is it here. Somebody can help me. And I basically just went through the wall and started matching the colors. So what I ended up doing was creating this color card. This is very similar to something that you would do in weaving, where you create a color wrapping, a weaving for wrapping color. But basically what I did was I put in the colors that are called for in the pattern, and then I wrote down underneath what color I was using. So in number 1, the contrast color called for is called cinnamon. I looked at the color card of the yarn online that's called for, and then I matched number 2, also called cinnamon, to the cinnamon called for in the pattern. And then I went through like this one, contrast color number 2 was maize. I picked number 46, soft yellow, and so on. Red curry, light petrol blue, forest edge green, and then a white for the finishing on some of the cuffs. And then this is my contrast color. It's called, I think this one's called grain. What was called for in the pattern was nougat, which is kind of like a grayish, creamy color. It wasn't like a bleached white like this. That's called for on the cuffs and the sleeves. So that'll be my main color, the contrast color that you see in the background here. All of that, and then the hem at the top, the collar at the top, and the sleeves at the bottom, and the hem on the hems, basically all of the hemming is done in that contrast color, and then you have a different background main color for the main part of the sweater. This took forever, doing all of this swatching and doing all of this stuff, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. Here's all of my initial ball bands from the initial samples that I did the swatching with. And the pattern calls for, see, this is where we have to get a bit creative, because the pattern calls for a gauge of 28.5 stitches over 4 inches, but we all know that swatches lie. And I often knit a little tiny bit tighter than my swatches show. So I got 27 stitches on 3.5 millimeter needles over 4 inches. So I'm actually thinking about going down to 3.25 millimeter needles, US size 3s, and knitting this. I'm right in between sizes. And so I'm thinking that I'll go up to the bigger size, knowing that I'll probably get a slightly tighter gauge. So still working my way through that one and trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And I might actually put this aside now that I've done all the swatching and I'm organized, everything is organized. I might actually put this away until the summer and start it when I have, you know, an afternoon where I can just sit on the porch and work my way through the cast on, and because the cast on's quite complicated, and just have some quiet, make a pot of tea, work my way through it quietly. I have read on the Ravelry project pages and everything that this pattern is not for the faint of heart. So I think just something quiet. What kind of cast on is it? It's an alternating, it's in the pattern. It's a multi-page cast on. Like, she discusses it over multiple pages. I'm not even gonna look. It's complicated. I think the reason why it's complicated is it's a 2-color cast on. So you're carrying 2 colors while you cast them on. I think that's what it is. Welcome, Lisa. Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. It is beautiful. Yeah, gorgeous, devastatingly. I'm hoping that I'll have it done by the new year. That's kind of in the back of my mind. That's my plan. And we all know how best laid plans happen, but that would be about a year after I got the yarn. So then, you know, it's not languishing in my stash and I'm working on it slowly and so on and so forth. So fingers crossed. I haven't made any progress on my advancing twill that I shared with you guys last show because we were away this weekend, but I'm about from probably about 12 inches maybe from finishing, and then the hem stitching, and I was really hoping to have it done for today. It's called Iris, Colleen, Iris, by Trin Annalie. Yes, it is a bit of a case of startitis. Thanks, Rebecca. I haven't had a startitis case for a very, very long time. It kind of feels good. So yeah, that's kind of some of the things I've been working on for the last couple weeks, in and amongst really making the Charkha my focus. That's been really what I've been trying to work on. I am wondering if you guys have a daily practice, and if so, can you tell us about it? How do you center it? How do you prioritize it? How do you keep yourself accountable to it? You can share here in the live chat. You can put a comment down below here on YouTube, but you can also share in #podcast chat on the Slack channel. And it's always nice to hear there because then we can, you know, have an ongoing discussion about it. But I'd really like to hear, you know, how do you guys balance that? How do you manage it? I feel like sometimes in certain seasons of life, it's easier than in others. So yeah, please share. All right. Before we finish for today, I would really like to do a community participation. So let me just pull it up here and we'll do that and then we'll say goodbye. I don't think you're alone in that, Rebecca. She said Instagram is her habit tracker. She also uses Habitica for a gazillion daily things that she needs to stay on top of. I know a lot of people use like Notion, which is oh, what do you call it? Like an organization, like a tabs organization kind of a thing to get things done. Some people, I know some people use like the Notes app on their phone or on their tablets. There's lots of different things that people do. All right, community shares. So Florence has been still working on her 52 weeks of using what she has. She finished this absolutely stunning sweater. I think it's this Zoeg, but I'm not sure how to say that exactly. Definitely not for gifting, she said. It's 10-year and 30-year-old yarn stash. This is orange baby yarn held with shiny, not kid silk haze fluff, but shiny mohair. The contrast is some yarn that she sprinkle dyed. Less than 1 meter of that remains. This is shockingly beautiful. I love this. I hope you get a ton of wear out of this, Florence. It is beautiful. Really well done. This is also from Maria. She's been sharing in the stash in Florence's thread as well. The Ostasjon sweater by Erica Aberg. She's a Swedish designer and has lovely kind of rustic style. The name means the sea in front of Gotland in local dialect. And I have to say, Maria, this sweater is just beautiful. I love all of this in here, this color work in here. It is so simple and so pleasing. I just love the colors that you chose as well. The teal is hand spun and the rest is stash yarns. Well done, Maria. Beautiful. I love it. Lisa says she loves the orange. Yes, I knew you would. And obviously we have tons of people making a lot in the community right now, and lots of makes and shares. So this is from Philippe. He put some yellow together with some purple on a lovely Uruguayan merino top, and he put up just the most pleasing video. So I wanted to share it with you all. just love that so much, what he did there. So cool. And yeah, I had to switch the mics around, so I wasn't sure if you guys were gonna be able to hear it, but hopefully it all worked out in the end. So beautiful, Philippe, just gorgeous. And this is from Renata. This is the Pelica vest that we've talked about the last couple of shows. This is it. She knitted it with her 2-ply Jacob yarn that she spun earlier this year. Her husband likes it so much, and we'll see how the yarn behaves in wearing. So I'm curious because it's the first sweater in her hand spun. Isn't this incredible? I love this sweater so much. I kind of want it. So now I just have to make my own. I love it. This is from Dion. Isn't this yarn? This is the finished yarn here. It is just incredible. Finished her combo spin. She has no idea what exact sweater it will become. She used 3 braids of inglenook fiber that were each over 5 ounces, so big braids. She split all the braids into 8 long strips and broke them in half. 2 of the braids, she ran all their strips through the carder once, and then she spun them, and then the last braid end to end and made a 3-ply. Love this so much, Dion. I then wound each braid to stored bobbins and plied. The resulting is a sport DK and just under 1,000 yards or 914 meters. I just love this so much. Just beautiful and gorgeous photos there, Dion, as well. Love the collage that you made of it, to show where the fiber was and what it looked like originally, what it looked like coming off the carder, and then the spinning, and then the finished bobbins, and then of course the finished yarn itself. Just beautiful. I can't wait to see what she makes with this. Maybe she'll do like a vest or a tank or something. This is from Alberto. This is the most loveliest story, and I encourage you to go back on the Slack channel and read his everything that he wrote, because he was talking about this sort of as he worked through this process. But he had a mystery bag of fiber at the thrift shop that I took it to my in-person fiber group, and a friend/member identified Angora as one of the fibers. It also had some mystery wool and other possibly synthetic fibers, and by December I was working on a bobbin. Look at how lovely and hairy that is from the Angora. A local yarn store was celebrating its first anniversary and asked the community for 6-inch squares of whatever. Last count she had 58 of different projects: knit, crocheted, sewn, felted, stitched. The community was there, so I decided to do a simple lace sample from a free online pattern. The Angora kept filling in the holes. Oh well, blocking after knitting helped it so much. So this project was a thank you to the wonderful store where my partner is learning to knit, and to my friend as her knowledge goes forward. And there is some loss in there in the whole story. There was some loss and there was some celebration and just lots of, it was wonderful to read. So I encourage you guys, for those of you who are on the Slack channel, to go back and read. But his swatch turned out so well of this mystery wool, you know, who would have thought? Just gorgeous. Well done, Alberto. This is from Eliane. Last month I had been spinning up a fleece white Norwegian wool that I washed and carded about 2 years ago. I needed to free up space for all my boxes that is stashing up now when we prepare for selling our house, and I spun it into an ordinary 3-ply, and I also decided that I would pick plants now that they show up in springtime and dye the yarn. So she picked horsehoof and dyed about 200 grams of 3-plied yarn, and then the dandelions showed up this week. So she picked dandelions and dyed about another 200 grams. Now she's waiting for the lady's mantle to bloom, and she will dye another 200 grams with that. And she'll keep some of the yarn white as well. The yarn on the right is dyed with the horsehoof. The light yellow in the middle is the dandelion. So this is the dandelion here, these 2 skeins, and then this is the horsehoof over here. It's interesting too with the horsehoof because it has a sort of a green undertone, whereas the dandelion has a distinctly yellow undertone, which is really interesting. The horsehoof gave a more greenish look, and the dandelion got very clear light yellow. All alum mordanted. She got about 1,500 meters of this 3-plied yarn. Amazing, Eliane, beautiful. This is from Becca. She's actually since knit this yarn up into a swatch, which is super cool. If you go back on the Slack channel, you'll see this knit into a swatch. But this is the first skein of her wool Ramie blend. After a few samples, this is the yarn she will be shooting for. It looks in different light. Definitely has the crispness of the Ramie, spun it more towards the worsted end for smoothness and drape, and now to make a knitted and a woven swatch. It was 76 grams, 144 meters, approximately 20-degree twist angle, and 13 wraps per inch. Beautiful, Becca. And this is all part of Becca's ongoing Master Spinners excellent certificate of excellence in spinning that she's been working on for the last number of years. And she came on Wool and Spinning Radio and was chatting about it. And we're hoping to have her back as she finishes up to talk about sort of it all coming together at the end and her learnings overall. So she posted this along with this little reminder: making your fabric with your hand spun is so educational. Every time I think I know what the fabric will feel like, and sometimes I am close, but it's always better to make and block the swatch and have it in your hands. A real piece of fabric is always better and more interesting than my imaginary pieces of fabric. Isn't that so true? This gorgeous feather and fan pattern. Beautiful. And lastly from Becca, the most stressful portfolio swatch is now done. This is lace weight Teeswater singles. I don't even need to say anything more about this. It's just incredible. Amazing. So, and actually, before we move on, look at the movement of this, like how the movement of the, I know there's a shadow, but like the movement of the swatch itself and of the lace patterning and how it moves, it's just incredible. It looks like a tidal pool. Beautiful. Becca has been so inspiring. I totally agree, Colleen. I can't wait to hear about like her finished everything, you know, when it's finished. This is from Sam. Isn't this the most beautiful shawl? Her twig shawl by Tin Can Knits is finished in good time for her niece's wedding next weekend, although the dress hasn't arrived yet. I hope it arrives soon, Sam. Fingers crossed for you. The fiber was Bali by Southern Cross Fiber, blended with Corriedale Tanzanite and white Polworth with a little bit of silver stellina, because you need that little bit of glam. Blended on my drum carder, spun on my Magicraft. Is so squishy and I love it. And that color, Sam, is beautiful. That's going to look amazing on you. Yes, Christine says that lace weight is beyond words. I totally agree. So diaphanous. Yes. Amazing. Yes, Lisa, absolutely. Sweater spin. This is from Linda. She's actually in the chat today and she's been on this whole road trip the last number of days. Long drive back home, so there was lots of time to knit, take breaks, and try very hard to get along with my beloved husband after so much time together in the car. Yes, I had to go for an hour-long walk yesterday to have a break from my family after the whole weekend with them and it being very intense. Now I'm home. We'll see if I can sit by myself for many knitting breaks between chores. Here's hoping. Love this, Linda. Can't wait to see this finished. Beautiful job. And Ashley, I had to share this. She posted it just the other day. This sweater has been quite a magnum opus for her, and it's been one of those things that she's been working on quietly in the background for a very long time, and she finally finished it. We chatted about it a couple times in queries as we kind of, you know, rallied behind her and encouraged her to finish it, and she has done such a beautiful job. Well done, Ashley. It just looks amazing. She'll block it. It's too hot to wear, but she's not taking it off until it's way too hot. And it's her first colorwork project. And trust me, she chose an incredibly complicated sweater for her first colorwork project. Amazing. Really well done, Ashley. And then we've got a little bit of spindle spinning from Glenda. She finished up her yarn. This was all support spindle spun. It was 60 grams of roll eggs from Simply Fiber by Nicole, and then 60 grams of roll eggs that she made to ply with it. The brighter color is from the roll eggs that Glenda made. And it's 515 yards, 124 grams. It's incredible grist, about 1900 yards per pound. Amazing. Well done. And I love the color, Glenda. How pretty is that? This little skein down here is so beautiful. Really well done. Thank you, you guys, for sharing everything you do and for doing everything that you do, for being a part of this community. There's no way that I could do this without you. I really, really appreciate your time, care, attention, all the things that you do here, and all the things that you contribute to our community to make it that much richer. I wouldn't be able to have Rebecca on with me and Dion, and I wouldn't be able to do it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you guys have a really, really wonderful weekend. I think you guys are going into a long weekend coming up, I think, if I'm correct. So I hope that you guys enjoy a little bit of time off. And for everyone else, I hope you have a wonderful start to your spring. And for those who are in the Southern Hemisphere, that you guys have a really lovely start to your fall. We will reconvene here next week at the same time, same place for the Wool Circle with Rebecca. And until then, happy spinning and happy making, you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye, everyone.